like an Israeli diplomat. I was wondering how you would respond to that.
I don't really respond to those types of things. What I say to people is, if they're interested in negotiation, and both Palestinians and Israelis say they are, then what this does is provide a scheduled timetable, prescription for the parties, not just to sit around a table together, but within 3 months of the negotiation beginning, to present comprehensive proposals on borders and security. That is the only way, in the end, we deal with the difficult issues around the table in a negotiation, and that is fully consistent, by the way, with lodging the application of the United Nations.
Mr. Blair, you keep on saying that we all know the issues that are at stake. Mr. Netanyahu today in his speech offered to meet Mr. Abbas in this house, in this building today. What possibly could change in the next 4 weeks, 3 months, on the ground, to the good, that will make this agreement move forward?
What's changed is the international community, it's the Quartet, have reviewed the situation and said, come, sit round the table and start negotiations. And what's changed also is that instead of simply saying to people, because this was always the fear of the Palestinians and the Israelis actually, the fear that they just sat round the table and talked, nothing ever happened, is to say within 3 months, comprehensive proposals on borders and security. So it's 3 months away. And then we will know where people stand on 2 of the major issues, the 2 first issues to be debated and discussed in any negotiation. Now, people have got to reflect on this and decide whatever happens here at the United Nations, in the end it's what happens in Israel and Palestine that really counts. And the best way of doing this is to sit down and debate the issues and get from each side their proposals. It's the important thing, not that they just sit there and have constant discussion, but they actually come up with concrete ideas about the way forward. Hang on. Take him, and then you. Yes, sir?
What happens if they don't agree in 3 months?
It's not a question of agreeing within 3 months, it's a question of tabling comprehensive proposals within 3 months. So we then see where each side is. We then have substantial progress within 6 months, and not later by the end of next year a framework agreement. By the way, you ask what happens if the sides don't agree? The same as in any negotiation. But what is absurd is for us to think we're going to be in a better place without any negotiation. So let's get people back round the table. The Palestinian application in the United Nations is here. It will go through the machinery of the UN. But parallel with this, we need talks. Hang on. Sorry?
When are you thinking of holding it?
The important thing is that the Moscow conference, I hope, will come at a certain point in this process and allow us to review the progress, because we say there's got to be substantial progress in the talks within 6 months. If we're making progress and in consultation with the parties, it's very sensible, I think, to have a conference in Moscow. Russia's played a constructive part in bringing all this together this week, and therefore it makes sense to hold that conference in Moscow.
Of a future Palestine?
No, I think if the Arab Spring is about greater democracy, if it's about making changes in the region that allow people to prosper economically and politically, then actually a state of Palestine that's viable and sovereign alongside a secure state of Israel is very much part of that process of change. So, no, I mean, I think, look, whatever the rhetoric in the United Nations today, and obviously both leaders make very strong speeches setting out their point of view. The fact is, once you get beyond that, you come back to the same issues, the same core issues that have got to be debated in the same way, and at some point they've got to be decided. And the best way to decide it is sitting down and deciding.
Question here. Yeah, was there any discussion of what specifically happens to the Palestinian application for statehood while you're waiting for this to happen?
Well, the application for statehood goes into, as I understand it, goes into the United Nations Security Council machinery. And I think, how that progresses and what happens to it will, in a sense, be partly formed and shaped by what happens in the negotiation. That's why I've always said if you simply have the UN without a negotiation alongside it, then it's quite hard to see people ever reaching agreement. On the other hand, since there is an in-principle desire for Palestinians to have their state, if you've got a negotiation and you're making progress, then it makes it a lot easier to handle anything that happens in the UN.
Sir, Mr. Blair, you have said that the application process is still proceeding, and Ambassador Salam has told us he's holding a meeting at 3 p.m. on Monday. You've said that both sides told you they are interested in negotiating. How sure are you that they will actually go along with your proposal and submit their proposals within 3 months?
Well, it depends whether they want to heed the call of the international community or not. And as you heard from the Secretary General of the UN today, he wants them to respond positively to it. And this, after all, is America, Russia, Europe, and the UN. So you've got the international community as a whole saying, we understand you've lodged the application with the United Nations, but come and negotiate, and here's a specific thing we want you to do within this 3-month period. Table the comprehensive proposals on borders and security. So, we can't force people to do that. We can only call upon them to do that. But I think if either party is serious or both parties are serious about peace, that's what they'll do. Because then all these issues to do with where people stand on different issues, even issues to do with settlements, then you'll see exactly where people stand on these questions.
There you have the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair.